When you reinvent yourself from a clean slate, it's much easier than when you have something that you feel you're not ready to let go of. And at the same time, I'm asking myself, am I not being able to let go of this because I don't want to admit failure? Is this my ego getting in the way? A lot of questioning of that. The reality sets in that I have to think about the future. I have to start building the future. Yeah, so 2017 is when we came, and through 2019, we actually got the green card on the last day of the decade. It came into our house on December 31st, 2019. So, my wife's grandma passed away on May 29th of that year. So it was all of that year was really when this was at its height. But it carried into 2020. And what really brought the challenge to another level, a whole new level, is that right after we get the green card, our celebration is short-lived because COVID comes in our business, which I've been dedicating myself full-time to for 17 years and had gone from scratch, from zero, to selling over $1 million a month, went to nothing. And so now came in a whole new array of challenges, letting go of people that had taken us blood, sweat, and tears to find, to bring into the team, to integrate as a team, letting go of our offices, telling clients that we were hoping to survive this. But and then I start my own process of soul searching. What am I going to do with my life? Do I really want to wait 4 or 5 years till the world is ready to do big international corporate events? If all goes according to plan and the vaccine is effective and everybody takes it and so on, is that something that I want to do? And so we're dealing with all of these economic and financial challenges as at the same time as I'm having to do the soul searching as my family's provider, because my wife had kind of put her career on the back burner to focus on helping me grow our business.
Take me to March 2020, please. March, April 2020, when everything goes lockdown and you're running $1 million a month. You've got the green card. You're here. You're ready to take off.
I am ready. I'm ready at that point. Like, we are working with the accountant to create that tax return for 2019 to go to the banks and finally say, hey, I'm a green card holder, so give us a line of credit, because we had never had access to any sort of financing of any kind. And so it was like beautiful moment. It's finally going to happen. My wife, I was like, thank you for your patience of the last 3 years. Now we're going to see it all come into fruition. And a week later, we hear about this thing happening in Asia and in Europe. And we're like, oh, great. Clients now want to come to Latin America. I mean, that's how naive we were about what was going on. Like, why are the clients all saying, we got to cancel our event in Asia? We're going to bring it to Latin America, which was great for us because we only operated in Latin America. We had people in 10 different Latin American countries. 100% of our operation was there. And it lasted for about a week, because a week later they were saying, oh, no, actually, we're not going to bring it to Latin America. This is not going to happen. And I went from that feeling like now we can finally take the company from 8-digit to 9-digit revenue to that feeling of I need to sell this before it's worth nothing. I got on a plane on March 10th, went to New York to see the 2 clients that I thought might be able to buy it really quickly, because they had been talking with us about acquiring us for years, and we had been saying we're not ready to be acquired. And I told them, if you want it, make an offer right now. And they're like, what? We are dealing with the same thing you are. We don't know if this is going to be an industry for years. So thanks, but no thanks. Took the plane back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just in New York, in a plane without mask, because the very next day that I was there, we were told you have to wear a mask, you have to do this, that, or the other. That's what was happening. I went back to my office here in Florida. We live close to Fort Lauderdale. I went to the office. All of a sudden, I felt like the world was falling on me, that everything was crumbling all around me. Everything I knew, everything I had worked toward for 17 years was just coming apart at the seams. My wife, when she heard me on the phone being so distraught, was like, come home. And when I came home, she said, you're not going back to that office. You could still go to the office. This was a week before lockdowns began. She's like, you're not going back. You need to stay here next to me. And that's when I started to kind of see things from the perspective of, at least I've got my family. At least we have our health. And that was the start. That was the start. You go back to basics and you value the most important things. It gives you a sense of what is core to you. That's when all that busyness of business disappears and you are able to envision your life, even though I was only 46, as if you are a 90-year-old looking back at his life.
Wow. We didn't go this deep into the story when we met, and I just love you and appreciate you for sharing this, because this is, I cannot even begin to imagine. Wow, just wow. And as the true eternal optimist, when things are falling apart in the business, you realize, got my family and I've got my health. And that baseline foundation mentality of I've got that. So we're at that moment right now. You've got them. The business is in the process of, or has crumbled. And you're great at your business, and through no fault of your own, what you are the very best at, which has been providing food on the table for a long time, now is gone. What happens next in March, April, May? How do we regroup and keep moving forward, Leo?
Well, first of all, this was all gut-wrenching. As an eternal optimist, even looking at my family and our health and valuing that, this was still gut-wrenching. I mean, I still had clients saying, send me the money back from the deposits we sent you for the event. I had vendors disappearing into, like not answering phones, not answering emails. They couldn't go to their offices. All of this happened over the course of a week or two. And just being that middleman of just not knowing what to do, what was right. This, obviously, we have contracts and they have force majeure clauses that says that if something completely out of nowhere happens, nobody is responsible. So the corporate lawyers that I consulted with said you have no responsibility. You're upholding your contracts. You're totally covered by force majeure. But I still felt an obligation, because these were clients that had, looked me in the eye several times and said, I'll trust you with my business. And these were vendors that this was a team that I had a personal relationship with. To me, that mattered. I couldn't just imagine myself folding the business and saying, all right, whatever. And so I had to deal with coming up with a new plan for how I was going to provide for my family and have an impact in the world and do work that made me want to wake up in the morning, while at the same time feeling like I couldn't just close the chapter and walk away and say, all right, I'll declare bankruptcy. And so that was a hard, that was a challenging moment for me, because when you reinvent yourself from a clean slate, it's much easier than when you have something that you feel you're not ready to let go of. And at the same time, I'm asking myself, am I not being able to let go of this because I don't want to admit failure? Is this my ego getting in the way? What are the reasons? So a lot of questioning of that. But eventually, Matt, what happens is, the reality sets in that I have to think about the future. I have to start building the future. And my wife is a life coach. She had just started working at that time, and she was at that time more focused on personal. Now she's working more with female executives in corporations, and she starts seeing me as a great person to start helping through. And she starts asking me great questions about my passion, my purpose, my why. I start getting into that world of Start With Why, and Simon Sinek and all of the works around purpose. And I started asking myself, what is my purpose? So I had this opportunity to come up with what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or at least in the biggest chapter of my life that was going to start now that I did have a green card, now that I could firmly say, we're here to stay. And so do I want to be an employee? I know I haven't been. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, but do I want to be an employee somewhere? Do I want to go into government? Do I want to go into the United Nations? Do I want to be in a nonprofit? I could start as if I was a kid again. And through that process, which had to be accelerated. It's not like the process that I did while I was in college, where I had all the time in the world while I studied to figure it out. This had to be really, really quick. I started narrowing it down until I finally said, yes, I definitely want to start a business. I definitely want to work with people and bringing them together like I've done through the events that we've organized. But I want to create the content around those interactions and those events. Whereas in the past, my business was about bringing together the vendors and doing the logistics. I wanted to come up with the architecture of how the community was going to engage. And eventually I realized I want to work with serving CEOs and entrepreneurs because that's who I know best how to serve. And so I might not have the authority now to do it, but I need to build that authority based on what I've done in the past and based on the idea that I have, the value proposition that I have for the company I want to start.